The auctioneer's gavel cracked like a whip, shattering the dusty silence of the Wyoming livestock market. Cole Ramsey stood at the back, his weathered Stetson pulled low, hiding the desperation in his eyes. His ranch was bleeding money, cattle prices were down, the bank was circling, and his dreams of keeping his family's legacy alive were slipping through his calloused fingers. But it wasn't the heifers or the geldings he'd come for today. It was her. The girl they called Too Wild, a mystery wrapped in defiance, standing in the holding pen with a fire in her eyes that matched the untamed plains. Cole didn't know why he raised his hand when the bidding started. Maybe it was madness. Maybe it was hope. Cole was a third-generation rancher, a man carved from the hard earth of Star Valley. At 34, he'd buried his parents, lost his brother to a rodeo accident, and watched his savings dwindle as drought and debt gnawed at his 200-acre spread. The townsfolk whispered he was cursed, a man too stubborn to let go of a sinking ship. But Cole didn't believe in curses. He believed in grit, in the ache of a long day's work, and in the faint chance that someone could turn it all around. The auction wasn't for people, not officially, but in these parts, folks sometimes traded labor for survival. She was there because no one else wanted her. Labeled troubled, unmanageable, a runaway with no family, no past anyone could pin down. Her name was Lila, and she was 19, with a braid of chestnut hair and a scowl that dared the world to try her. The auctioneer rattled off her flaws like a warning label: defiant, headstrong, no respect for authority. Good with horses, though, if you can keep her from running off. The crowd chuckled, but Cole saw something else. The way she stood, shoulders square, eyes scanning the horizon like she was already halfway gone. He bid low, $200, expecting to be outdone. No one else raised a hand. The gavel fell, and just like that, Lila was his. Not his in any cruel sense, just a contract, a year of work for room, board, and a chance to start over. He didn't know what he'd just signed up for, but as he led her to his rusted pickup, he felt the weight of her gaze, sharp and unyielding, like a Mustang sizing up a rider. The first challenge came fast. Lila wasn't one for rules. The morning after she arrived, Cole found her gone from the bunkhouse, her bed untouched. Panic gripped him until he spotted her in the corral, whispering to his most skittish mare, a gray named Juniper who'd kicked every ranch hand Cole ever hired. Lila's hands moved like she was weaving a spell, calming the horse in minutes. When Cole approached, she didn't flinch. "You didn't say I couldn't work before dawn," she said, her voice low but edged with steel. He wanted to snap back, to lay down the law, but something stopped him. She wasn't just good with horses, she was born for them. Still, her defiance set the tone. She'd work, but on her terms, slipping out at night to roam the hills, leaving Cole to wonder if she'd vanish for good. The ranch itself was a battleground. The second challenge was the land. A dry summer had left the pastures brittle, and Cole's herd was thinning. The bank sent letters, each one colder than the last, demanding payments he couldn't make. He needed to move cattle to a new grazing lease 50 miles north, a grueling drive over rough terrain, but his crew was down to him and an aging hand named Pete, who could barely lift his saddle. Lila, though, threw herself into the work. She rode like she was part of the horse, guiding strays with an instinct Cole had never seen. But her recklessness scared him. She'd charge into ravines after lost calves, ignoring his shouts, risking her neck like she had nothing to lose. One night, after a calf nearly trampled her, Cole lost it. "You trying to get yourself killed?" he yelled. Lila just stared, her eyes glinting in the firelight. "Maybe I'm just living," she said. He didn't know how to answer that. The third challenge was trust. Cole wasn't used to relying on anyone. After his brother died, he'd built walls higher than the Tetons, convinced he was better off alone. Lila, though, had her own scars. She didn't talk about her past, but Cole pieced it together from fragments: foster homes, betrayal, a life spent running. She didn't trust him either, not at first. When he gave her a room in the main house after a storm flooded the bunkhouse, she refused, sleeping in the barn instead. "I don't need your pity," she spat. It stung, but Cole saw the fear behind her words. He started small, leaving coffee on the porch, teaching her to mend fences, sharing stories of his dad's old rodeo days. Slowly, she softened, her sarcasm giving way to quiet laughs, her guarded glances turning to moments where their eyes met. And held. The turning point came in late fall. A blizzard hit, unexpected and brutal, trapping half the herd in a high canyon. Cole knew it was a suicide mission to go after them, but losing those cows would mean the end of the ranch. He saddled up, ignoring Pete's protests. Lila, of course, was already waiting, her horse tacked and ready. "You're not going alone," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. The storm was a whiteout, wind screaming through the pines, but Lila rode like she could see through it. They found the herd, huddled and freezing, and worked for hours to drive them down. At one point, Cole's horse stumbled, throwing him into the snow. He thought he was done, but Lila was there, hauling him up, her grip fierce. "We're not dying today," she said, and he believed her. They saved the herd, but the ranch wasn't out of the woods. The bank gave Cole a final ultimatum: pay up by spring or lose everything. He was ready to give up, to sell the land and walk away. Lila wouldn't let him. She'd started calling the ranch home, her walls crumbling as she found purpose in the work. One night, she dragged him to the barn, showing him a plan she'd scribbled on a feed sack. "We sell the yearlings early, lease the back pasture, and host a community ride to raise cash," she said. "People around here love you, Cole. They'll help." He laughed, half in disbelief, but she was right. The town rallied, drawn by Lila's fire and Cole's quiet resolve. The ride brought in enough to keep the bank at bay, and for the first time, Cole saw a future. The final challenge was their hearts. Cole hadn't meant to fall for her. She was too young, too wild, too much like the brother he'd lost. But Lila wasn't just a ranch hand or a runaway. She was his partner, the one who saw the man behind the struggle and chose to stay. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun sink behind the mountains, she took his hand. "I was never too wild," she said softly. "I was just waiting for the right place to land." Cole's throat tightened. He didn't have words, but he didn't need them. He squeezed her hand, and they sat there, two broken souls who'd found each other in the dust and the fight. By spring, the ranch was breathing again. The herd was strong, the pastures green, and Lila was no longer a hired hand but a partner in every sense. They faced the world together, not as a rancher and a runaway, but as equals, born to ride side by side. The townsfolk stopped whispering about curses. They talked about Cole and Lila, the man who wouldn't quit and the girl who was never too wild, just wild enough to save him. The story doesn't end with a fairy tale sunset. Life on a ranch never does. But it ends with hope, with the kind of love that grows from shared battles and quiet moments. For anyone watching, the message is clear: sometimes, the things labeled broken or wild are exactly what you need to rebuild a life. Keep fighting, keep loving, and never be afraid to take a chance on someone or something that feels like home.